Baik teman-teman, sesaat lagi kita akan mulai acara ini. Mungkin Mas Puput bisa membantu untuk menutup pintunya kalau memang sudah tidak ada teman-teman yang datang, bisa ditutup. Oke, selamat sore teman-teman sekalian. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Selamat datang di ruang 2.1 Gedung Rektorat Lama atau di Prodi Penciptaan Musik ISI Yogyakarta. Sore ini kami Art Music Today menyelenggarakan kegiatan dengan tajuk Public Lecture bersama Elisabeth Shimana. Thank you Elis. Dan acara ini merupakan bagian dari satu proyek yang nanti akan dijelaskan lebih lanjut oleh Mbak Anilu selaku kurator dari proyek ini. Jadi beruntung sekali sore ini kami bisa menghadirkan Elis di tengah teman-teman untuk berbagi cerita, berbagi pengalaman, dan tentu saja berbagi ilmu untuk kita bersama gitu. Dan terima kasih tentu saja kepada Prodi Penciptaan Musik ISI Yogyakarta yang sudah memberikan kesempatan ruang ini dan segala macam kebutuhan yang diperlukan untuk sore ini. Juga terima kasih kepada teman-teman semua yang meluangkan waktu untuk hadir pada sore hari ini. Yang registrasi itu sekitar 90 orang. Ternyata sudah tak tutup tadi malam, tapi ternyata masih banyak respon. Mudah-mudahan cukup. Nanti kalau memang masih ada yang berdatangan, ya teman-teman bisa memposisikan di tempat yang nyaman, mungkin bisa di belakang atau di mana gitu. Jadi untuk mempersingkat waktu, saya ingin mengundang Pak Puput Pramuditya. Gelarnya perlu disebut ke apa rasa untuk menyampaikan sedikit prakata gitu. Silakan.
Selamat sore. Puji syukur kehadirat Tuhan Yang Maha Seni yang menguasai keindahan, sehingga kita semuanya dapat berkumpul di tempat ini untuk menyaksikan sebuah acara public lecture oleh Ibu Elisabeth Shimana. Kemudian selamat datang kepada rekan-rekan mahasiswa, kepada seluruh hadirin, para tamu undangan yang sudah hadir. Pada hari ini saya mewakili Bapak Kaprodi Dr. Kardi Laksono mengucapkan terima kasih kepada Lembaga Informasi Musik Art Music Today, kemudian untuk narasumber Ibu Elisabeth Shimana. Thank you so much for coming here. Kemudian kepada HMJ Penciptaan Musik dan tentunya kepada ISI Yogyakarta atas terselenggaranya acara ini. Kami Prodi Penciptaan Musik berharap dengan agenda seperti ini paling tidak dapat menumbuhkan nalar berpikir kompositoris bagi kita semua gitu. untuk paling tidak mencapai tujuan-tujuan artistik tertentu dalam berkarya. Kemudian lewat acara seperti ini juga kami harap dapat membuka ruang-ruang diskusi akademik yang akan membantu kegiatan intrakurikuler di kelas gitu. Tidak akan lama-lama, kami akhir kata atas nama Prodi Penciptaan Musik kami mohon maaf atas segala kesalahan apabila banyak kekurangan yang terdapat di acara ini. Terima kasih dan wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ya, terima kasih Pak Puput. Selanjutnya Mbak Iksnasian Nilu selaku kurator untuk proyek ini, kami persilakan untuk menyampaikan informasi dan sebagainya.
Ya, selamat sore. Terima kasih untuk Prodi Penciptaan Musik, Pak Puput, teman-teman AMT, Mas Eri yang sudah mempersiapkan acara di sore hari ini. Teman-teman semua, thank you for Elisabeth and all the teams that coming. Saya mungkin sedikit bercerita mengapa ada Elis di sini dan mengapa kemudian ada project yang akhirnya kita hubungkan dengan kuliah umum di sore hari ini itu. Beberapa tahun yang lalu saya dengan Arjok, dengan festival yang saya kuratori, mengundang Elis untuk mempresentasikan sebuah karya dan juga performance. Dan dari kunjungan itu membawa kami pada sebuah observasi di sebuah gua di Jawa Timur, sebenarnya tempatnya ada di Pacitan, dan gua ini menarik untuk kami karena sebagai gua yang punya sejarah yang juga penting secara arkeologi di Indonesia. Gua ini punya fenomena akustik yang luar biasa, dan itu yang kemudian saya, Elis, dan teman-teman AMT sekarang sedang tengah gali untuk, ada masalah? Huh? Dicedak ya? Ya. Ya, jadi mungkin sedikit cerita. Jadi project dengan yang sedang kami lakukan ini sebenarnya sebuah observasi di sebuah gua. Itu gua di Jawa Timur. Gue yang punya sejarah arkeologi yang menarik dan penting, tapi juga di sini kami melihat satu possibility untuk mengolah fenomena akustik di gua itu gitu. Jadi di bulan depan kami akan mengerjakan sebuah site specific performance di Gua Tabuhan di Pacitan dengan Elis. Elis adalah komponisnya untuk proyek ini, dan di proyek ini selain ada site specific performance, kita akan membuat sebuah sound installation gitu. Saya kira Elisabeth Shimana sebagai seorang tokoh gitu ya, sebagai komponis dan juga dirinya sendiri sebagai seniman, dia juga punya inisiatif-inisiatif yang menarik gitu untuk dibagikan ke kita. Mungkin banyak hal-hal baru yang ini mungkin menjadi idiom-idiom baru dan menarik gitu. Ya untuk dibagikan bersama kita semua. Nanti teman-teman bisa juga saling berbagi dan bertanya. Jadi forumnya ini cukup cair sebetulnya di sore hari ini, dan nanti mungkin juga Elis akan sedikit membagikan ya bagaimana responnya gitu secara kompositoris terhadap nanti proyek yang akan kami kerjakan bersama di Pacitan di bulan mendatang gitu. Saya kira mungkin itu mengapa kami ada di sini dan kenapa kuliah di sore hari ini terselenggara, dan ya semoga ini sedikit memberikan inspirasi buat kita semua. Elisabeth Shimana asalnya dari Austria, dia adalah seorang pionir untuk praktik komposisi elektroakustik, seorang penggagas untuk sebuah institusi namanya Institute for Media Archaeology gitu. Jadi ini cukup menarik ya, institusi yang digagas Elis ini mungkin jarang ada di dunia karena dia berfokus dan tertarik dengan media arkeologi untuk objek-objek sound machine gitu. Jadi risetnya tuh bahkan sebelum dari instrumen gitu. Dan sampai hari ini akustik dengan praktik digital, banyak proyek-proyek pengarsipannya juga. Nanti dia juga akan berbagi sedikit gitu apa yang selama ini dikerjakan dengan IMA. Saya kira itu. I think the next will be Gatot and also Elis. Oke, selamat sore teman-teman.
Oke, terima kasih Mbak Nilu. Sebagai informasi, jadi acara sore ini akan disiarkan langsung di YouTube.
So, I started to do electronic music in the 80s. And of course, this time, in the 80s, the digital was there. But when I started to study, it still was not actually common to work on the computer because computers were too slow. I remember the first Atari I was working on, it had 20 megabyte storage. Can you imagine that? What that means? If you do music with a 20 megabyte storage, this is something is just, yeah, you know, you had to type lines and then wait the whole night, and the next day you get a sound and it will make something like this. So, but let's go even back, I don't know, to the, let's say the beginnings of electroacoustic music in the 40s actually. When Pierre Schaeffer, I don't know who knows Pierre Schaeffer here in this, no? So, musique concrète was actually, let's say, the beginning of electronic music. So there was there were these people in Paris around Pierre Schaeffer who had this idea that every sound in this world can be music, right? So because the technology was there already, the tape machine was already there, so it was possible to record and to store sounds and to manipulate sound on the tape machine. In Germany, there was a different direction actually. It was the kind of pure electronic music, but also analog, with analog sine wave generators. So what I do now would have been nearly impossible. I'm working in the project in Tabuhan with about more than 40 digital oscillators. So can you imagine to have about 40 analog sine wave generators, which actually I would love to do, created a solfège, but on the different qualities of different sounds. So that's what they were doing. And one lady was part of this group, and this is Beatriz Ferreira. And I jump now out of this, and I go a little bit to this portrait, like at IMA, my institution I run. We portrait 10 ladies, very important for electronic music, and one is Beatriz. And I think it's super nice because she will tell you about this solfège, and she will do it for you. Huh? Where's the sound?
Il fallait que les gens, bon, si vous mettez littérature, c'est une succession d'impulsions, une trame, quelque chose qui n'a pas de... Ça peut continuer comme ça, et c'est complètement... c'est une transformation. Les impulsions, par exemple, ou un son tonique, au complexe. Et puis il y avait les échantillons, par exemple, qui étaient la même source sonore, mais beaucoup plus folle, c'est-à-dire sans une construction. Puis il y avait les bien précis. On pense toujours, je sais pas, c'est vieux, non, c'est pas vieux.
Okay, so this, Beatrice showed you the characters, you know, of different sounds, yeah? So they were on us, so these were the new solfège, right, for the musique concrète. And so, still everybody was working on the tape, and I show you how Beatrice She did a little performance for us when we made the film, and I want to show you this very little performance because I really think it's great. Let me see.
Je me suis rendu compte que la partie manuelle était absolument.
She tells about how important for her it is to work with the tape machine as a material.
Ah, si. Ik ben super Dutch.
Okay, so you get a little idea. How this early people were working, no? And also when I studied, we had a tape machine, so I had to cut tapes, to slice tapes, you know, and to make pieces with the tape machine. So now we are in 1989. I did a piece called Sirens, and so for this piece I created a planetophone. I had copper half balls in proportion to the planets, and it was also together with video and so on. And so the sounds, I still was working, I'm coming from the voice, as a singer, and so the sounds I made were with an old with a Roland synthesizer we had in the studio there, and yeah, so it goes back to Plato's The Republic and so on and so on. So I don't know if you know the story about the sirens, you know, Odysseus and the sirens were singing and giving Odysseus a hard life because he couldn't somehow avoid not to go to the sirens. Anyway, and so this is about the idea of the heavens. They look like that. Wait, what I wanted to show you, this, where is picture? Okay, I don't have it. Anyway, this piece actually was made on an 8-track tape machine, yeah, and so it was a tape like this. I thought I have the picture here. This was, I wanted to show you how we were working at this time. So, let's jump about 10 years in the 90s. So what was in the 90s? In the 90s, the internet came, right? So there's a program on the Austrian Broadcast Union called Kunstradio, and this program was had this idea to connect radio, the internet, and live performance. So I was thinking about to create a score for the internet, which in '96 was actually something, you know, because there was Netscape, everything was super slow. So you had a lot of delay, you know, between in the connection, in the net, yeah, right? And so, but I created a piece with four remote conductors somehow. So one was in Japan, one was I think in Helsinki, one was in Berlin, and another one was in Vienna. And I was together with musicians on a boat, also on a border between Austria and Slovakia, which at this time was not in the EU, right? So, because this was the slogan, no? On site, online, on air. So what these conductors did, you see these little symbols. So everybody had symbols, these symbols, and each symbol meant a specific sound. So they put in this core these symbols, and we were on this boat would do an interpretation of these symbols. And this is was once one sample, right? So we had this kind of samples, and at the same time, so on this little river, there were a natural surrounding. So we have put microphones all over. So we had the sounds from the environment and the samples, but not played as samples, but the musicians played them live, right, on the sampler. So we are here on the boat. So what do you think? Did this work? I mean, we have 96, you know. And it was really a challenge, you know, to synchronize. Can you imagine at this time to synchronize 4 conductors in 4 remote places, yeah? And to do a synchronization of these 4 remote places. Finally, and this was super interesting for me, because of course at the same time it was a live broadcast. So anyway, we had to do it, right? If you are on air, live, no matter what happens, you need to play. And no, it didn't really work, right? So the network didn't really happen. But the most interesting thing is that these 4 conductors replied in emails, yeah, it was so great, you know. We were so this was really super interesting, you know. So everybody had the feeling to be connected. Yeah? So I think, yes, we have the lines which connect us, but at the same time we have this emotional connection, right? And this emotional connection, you know, is also happening. So, 10 years later, at this time I already was working purely digital. So this is a live solo performance for a multi-channel system. And it was inspired by Stephen Hawking's book, A Brief History of Time. Who knows this book? About the universe, how it would, his idea, how the universe would emerge, you know, from the Big Bang. So what I tried, because I thought also in electronic music what we have is the situation that people doing electronic music and only they know how to do it, right? Is not history in making scores for interpretation, like in sheet music or in other music, right? So it's always about that other people will do an interpretation. So I thought, what actually do I have to write down or to make notes that maybe in 100 years somebody can see this, and probably with completely different tools, because technology is going on and the tools will change, could probably redo it. And this is interesting because now we are in a time slot where we have a lot of reenactments, right? Reenactment of performance art, reenactment also of early sound art, media art, because the only way that the piece is surviving, let's say a time-based piece, not, you know, a picture you put on the wall or something, this is a static thing, but time-based art needs to be reinterpreted to stay alive. So this was this idea, so it's a very common thing. We have a kind of language, we know what an ADSR is, we know what a sine wave is, we know, and so on and so on. We know what a filter is, we know what a noise band is. So I tried to write that down in a way that no matter with which kind of tools, it should be possible to redo it. So, but in the same year, something interesting happened to me because I discovered a machine from the 60s. Who knows Bob Moog? No? So, okay, there are some people. Okay, so Bob Moog was building, let's say, one of the first synthesizers really used in popular music, or, you know. So there were synthesizers before. We can go back to even to the 30s, you know. But these synthesizers were based on optical systems and were not, and then the next systems were really, really big, not possible really to bring it to the stage. So Moog actually made the first modules, and to have a kind of voltage controlled synthesizer. But here you see Max Brandt. Here you see this machine, but this machine actually has different technologies. So on top you see the Moog models, but what you see, the middle part, is actually coming from the Trautonium. Who ever heard about the Trautonium? Yes, Lintang? For sure. So in the time between the First and the Second World War, so let's jump to this website, to the sound machines. So you see, I did a big exhibition 2008-9 called Zauberhafte Klangmaschinen, Magical Sound Machines, and going from the very beginnings of electronic music instruments like the theremin or the Aunt Martineau up to the first sound card. So one really important one is the Mixtur Trautonium. Was ist jetzt los? Not working? Well, it seems not to work. However, okay, doesn't matter. So, this Mixtur Trautonium was working like you had a kind of mother oscillator, and then it was divided, right? Because this was the technology which was possible. To add was not possible at this time, yeah, but to divide. So you got a lot of sub-frequencies, yeah. So coming back here, you see here, this part is a kind of Mixtur Trautonium with two mother oscillators, and here you have a kind of matrix, yeah, here, and you could have 4 slots, let's say, and you could actually say this is divided, I don't know, 20 times to go really down deep, or 2 times to have an octave, or and so on and so on. So Max Brandt's idea was to create a machine which was able to play everything, which was a challenge at this time because it didn't exist. Even the synthesizers were monophonic and not polyphone, right? So he wanted to have, as a composer, he wanted to have a polyphone machine, and he created this machine. And I discovered this machine and did a lot of research on that machine and explored how it is working. Nobody really knew how exactly this machine is working. I also released a book on that, and so again I did a piece called Hell Machine, and then finally, after traveling with this kind of laptop, traveling with a machine like this was, I have to say, was quite fun. And so, yes, and I didn't play it myself. I asked a very good pianist to play it because the interface still is a keyboard, but these keyboards don't have aftertouch. So you need to release one to push the next one. To hear the next tone, you have to release the first one. So I told this pianist to play as fast as possible. And this is what you are going to hear now, because it's so hard finger work, no? To do this. Yeah, so this was at Ars Electronica 2009, and then I was traveling with this machine till Moscow and Kiev and Berlin and I don't know where, which was quite fun, you know. So, and this is a bit also about media archaeology, right? So how to activate machines again, but in a way which is connected to the time now, right? And not, you know, to the aesthetic-wise, you know, and not to the 60s. So,
do you bring also technician for this? Because you are traveling a lot with
It's a very fragile instrument. Yes, anyway, you always can stop me and ask questions, yeah? If we have questions, please do that, yeah? Let me see, this was Max Brandt Studio. This is the notation. So, and this is Gregor. He explored with me the machine. And yes, he actually took care because, so there always was a kind of problem, especially with the foot pedals, always some little thin wire may break, right? Via the transport and so on. So yeah, it always needs some soldering to do that. To do it again, but yeah. So, wo sind wir jetzt? Now we go to a piece I brought to Artuk in 2019 because I met Nilo in Vienna when she was there and had a residency as a curator. And so this piece I did together with a Norwegian textile artist, and this is actually a picture from Artuk, and so it was about to use this, let me go, because it's, I also did a score for that, and you see this kappa, this kappa stuff here was the material for the interface. So Lintang helped me a lot to set up this. It was also a little bit a nightmare with all these wires and to get it run and play, or yes, as Arduino stuff and so on. So the people actually could go inside, and there was this interface, and they could play with it, right? So it's always a little bit jumping between the full digital, which I really love, because it gives me possibilities I would not have in the analog, but also then go to analog, or in between all this Arduino stuff and so on is a kind of in between analog and digital. Of course it's digital, but at the same time you are back to get to know a little bit how the circuits work, because what I had the feeling also when I did this exhibition, the sound machines, that for the young people it was so nice to see how circuits are working, you know, because in this machine we have no idea. We don't actually really know how it is, you know. Yes, we know, but we don't really get access to that. So, and now I am here. This is what I do at the moment. So, we started from music. Perfect piece, the perfect score was stored on a medium. In the early times, it was the tape. Then, of course, it was on CD. Then, idea of these composers, or of a lot of composers of Musik Konkret, was the piece is, and actually in the beginning 2-channel pieces, is stored on a medium. It is fixed, and then we go to a space and we do diffusion, right? And only the composer would do it, him or herself. So this was a perfect score, because it also was this idea to get rid of these stupid musicians. They always do something, you know. They just don't do what the composers want. So this was. But now, let's say 10 years ago, it started that this first generation died, right? So what to do with these pieces? So again, we need to do an interpretation. So a new school of interpretation of electronic music pieces started. So there is one guy in Austria, Thomas Gorbach. He has the Viennese Akosmonium. Akosmonium is a kind of loudspeaker orchestra, also coming from the French. And he started actually to make a kind of school to teach young people to do an interpretation of this historical electroacoustic music pieces. So, the idea was the score is actually the sound. As an electronic musician, we work always direct on the sound, right? We don't start from writing, right? We start from listening. We work more like sculptors, right? We form sounds, we create, you know, yeah? So I was asked to do a piece for the symphony orchestra, for the radio symphony orchestra in Vienna. So I thought, well, what I'm going to do, because I'm not somebody who's really good in writing, Deutsche music, you know. So I said, okay, I will stay where I am and what I do best, and this is to work on the sound. So I said, so the sound will be the score. And this, of course, was only possible because of the tools I have now, because I now can digitally create oscillators. I can use physical modeling. Who knows what is physical modeling? Yeah. So we can model, these are mathematical models of sounds, right? Like of a string, a physical model of a string, or a physical model of a membrane. What instrument would be a membrane? Where are the percussionists? What are you playing? You are playing membranes, right? Yeah? The string instruments, you know, have you know? Then we have air, right? So, this started also in the 80s, 90s, that they started to model basic, let's say, not even, I wouldn't even say instruments, but basic features of instruments like membrane, air, and strings. So I started a series in 2011, and this series I called the virus series. Why a virus? Because I had this idea that also another thing is, you have a lot of electronic music pieces with instruments, right? So you have an ensemble, and there is electronics with it, and very often I had the feeling that this is just to do some kind of effect, right? So I had the feeling, no, the electronic sound has to be the core, has to be the most important, you know. So not the electronic will adapt to the instruments, no, the instruments will adapt to the electronic. Yeah, of course, it's then in the end, it's a kind of working in two directions, but actually really to so this is the picture I had. So I am the host, and the musicians are my viruses. So they have to, so they have to adapt as much as they can, you know, to imitate the sounds I play to them. So. Yeah, so something like this will happen at Tabohan, but with gamelan instruments, which is super interesting for me, because there is a complete different tuning with the instruments from Sandikala ensemble. So I spent last Saturday only on tuning. Now I really need to tune my oscillators to the to the instrument. Yeah. It's not possible that the instrument is going to be tuned to my oscillators. This time it has to be the other way around, right? And yes, and Cesar will experience to play the percussion. Yes. And yeah, so one idea of this method or structure is that actually I have a frequency, and this frequency somehow is connected to a pulse, to a metronome, right? So each frequency has a different pulse, right? It would be a super mess to write something like that down. Nearly impossible. But with the audio score, it's possible, right? Because so one musician will be connected to his or her speaker. And that's it. Yeah? And so it's possible to work in kind of super complex polyphonic rhythmical structures, but somehow I think the feeling is a little bit that these are loops, but it's never a loop. It's always shifting. And this is interesting also when the musicians start to play loops, they are wrong. Something is wrong. But this is what our brain is doing. Our brain is continuously simplifying, because otherwise we would not survive, I think. Too many stuff coming, too much input, yes? So we need to simplify. But in this special method, I force the musicians not to simplify, really to follow these shifts. So they always they are always allowed to stop and to listen, you know, because it's hard to listen and to play at the same time. I know that, yeah. So, yeah. So this I have a lot of viruses now. So virus number ones are with one instrumental group or solo. 2 is 2 different instrument groups, and 3 is a lot. So the virus at Tabuhan will be, let's say, a number 2, because it's gamelan instruments and percussion. So this is another approach of audio score, and this is a question. So how is our acoustic memory working? So this and for how long is it possible, you know, that you remember without having a written score? And of course, I did with one ensemble in Lithuania for 7 minutes. It was possible to do it, but this is a piece, it's a music theater piece I did, it was about 1 hour, and then of course you need to have some kind of help to structure the time. So what you see here actually, and now it's actually we go back to tape music, because that's exactly how you would put down, let's say the score after you made a piece, and then you write down the let's say the time structure. So I was working with them with samples like this. So I give them a sample, and then, or a truck, or looms, or different stuff, and then they have to translate this sample to their instrument. So this is interesting, because how will you translate a sound like this to the harp? So you need to find ways, right, to do that. So the approaches, we meet, they get the material, they get the samples, and then we find together ways to make this transition to their instruments. So this is about the story, about this piece, because I was in Zealandia in New Zealand. I know if you ever heard. So this is a fenced urban eco sanctuary. What they try to do there is that no animals are allowed. So they want actually to see how the world would have looked like before humans. This is a super interesting experiment. So when you enter, they see if you have some kind of, I don't know, rat or mouse or so, because they don't want to have that inside, no? And then you have this fairy tale, Sleeping Beauty. Who knows this? Sleeping Beauty. I think there are so many different versions, but I had this idea, so what would happen if we all go to sleep for 100 years and leave this world alone? It would help this world a lot, I think, right? Because we do a lot of shit with this earth. So this was actually the idea of this piece. And so let's see.
Die anderen Feen wollten dies so gut noch machen, als sie konnten, und sagten, sie sollte nur noch 100 Jahre im Schlaf machen. Da starb sie sich in die Stille und die alsbald in einen tiefen Schlaf.
Pilze, Pflanzen, Nachtsamen, Bedecktsamen, Farne, Stacheln, Quallen, Fische, Korallen, Eier, Eidechsen, Spinnen, Insekten. Dann irgendwann Vögel. Das funktioniert sehr gut. Dann irgendwann Säugetiere. Warum? Warum diese Wärme? Warum diese Kälte? Warum das Bedürfnis, in der Hinsicht drin herumzutragen. Raus damit! Ah ja, kann man nicht definieren. Das ist so ziemlich das perfekte Reproduktionssystem. Was für ein höllischer Krieg hat zu der Maßnahme geführt, die in der Hinsicht drin auszuziehen. Der Wimmel flackert wie ein Soundsystem, wenn die Erde eine Augenschau verliert. Schwachsinn. Hier ist in einem verdammten Paradies steht nicht herum. Irgendwann gewöhnst du dich an das Aufrollen des Motors.
Okay, so they were synchronized. So what you see here is, this is the sample. So this is the structure of the sounds they have to play. This they have to play from memory, right? They are not allowed to have notes. They always swindle, you know. They always have some kind of notation they do themselves. So it's really funny. But anyway, and this is, you see, it's running. They all have a tablet, and these tablets are synchronized so that they are in the same time slot. And then they see, okay, I have to play this, I have to play that, I have to play this. And yes, as I mentioned before, of course, this comes from this beginning, no, of the, let's say, of the tape machine, in a way, how we did pieces in the early times. So we have different kind of scores, right? We have a performance score. The performance score, I say, is a communication tool between the composer and the performer, right? I need to tell the performer something. Then we have a machine score. This is the interface, the communication tool, human-machine. We have composer's notes. We have also, which we really need to take in consideration, the performer's notes. Any performer, no matter, at least all the performers I know, whatever music they play, they make their own notes, right? How they will do it, and the machine notes. So I have here some examples. This would be the performance score. One is the speaker, you know, where the score is coming out of the speaker, or this what we were talking just right now. This would be a surface on my computer. This is only the leveling of the different oscillators. This is what I would see during a performance. This is what is, let's say, one voice, yeah? Frequency, volume, ADSR, metro, line, yeah, whatever. This would then be my notes I do afterwards, not before. This is for remembering. It's really nice, you know, to have this. So, and are my conclusions. So I like to focus on the listener, and somehow it's a new form of oral tradition, and it's to me a very pleasurable way to communicate with the musicians. And here we go. Yes, next week. Okay. Now, any questions, whatever? You would like to know?
I think it is a give a vote for Elisabeth Shimana. It's very wonderful explanation. So this is time for Q&A. If you like, please just touch the topic. Yeah, probably the score is really strategic, and probably I have a lot of questions, but I think it's from you guys it's better to do that. Please pakai bahasa Indonesia boleh, nanti Mbak Nilu dan teman-teman mau Nehem mau translasi, silakan. Yuk, silakan.
I don't know a lot about story or anything about music, but I was an archaeologist, of course I don't know. And then I'm just curious about the obstacle that you used to find during your method to see of your research on the analog or digital, right? Of course, we have lots of obstacles because I was also doing research too, but that's in progress. That is different in places on the whole, right? So
could you come a little bit more to the front? That would be great.
why I should be come out?
Yeah. No, it's better. Is it? So, just tell me.
Okay. So I'm just curious about the obstacle that you found from the research on the hall, perhaps also on the cave, also in everywhere that you found, because every place is different.
Yes.
Different because of the material of the building or the national site itself. What is the obstacle that you found as an archaeologist, not as a musician, because I just want to know. And how you manage the obstacle itself to record from the analog or from the digital itself. Thank you.
So, when I understand your question right, one is about the space where you do the performance, right? It's about the architecture, it's about the space. Yes, you're completely right. Every space is different, very different. Every space has a different reverberation. Every space has other resonances, means different frequencies are more amplified than others, right? So, and I'm working in a lot of different spaces. Like this year, I was working in a big dome, which is a big church, right? Catholic church. A big dome. I was working in a smaller church. Now I'm going to this cave, and of course the conditions are always completely different. So, what I learned already in the 90s is that if you do, let's say, a live electronic performance, that one of the most important features are the values of the different the volume values of the different oscillators, because here I can control the frequencies, right? So if a space is amplifying specific frequencies, I can deal with that because I have no fixed media, right? Piece. So this is one thing I can do, and so I can adapt easily to different spaces. And then I made also this year. You just need to test. Yeah, you come to a space, and let's say you put the percussion there, and it turns out, no, it's not possible. The glass will start to shiver or whatever. No, so we put it somewhere else, right? Because in the concepts, or the concepts I use are that flexible that I can do that. Yeah? Many times this is not possible, and then you need to do a lot of, then the sound technicians come, no? And need to do a lot of filtering and this and that, and filter this resonance and that resonance. No, I don't need that usually. I can deal in a different way with it. So, what was the other was about analog and digital, right? As I mentioned, I think both has different features. Let's say it like that. And in the end, we live in an analog world, and we always need to go analog anyway. There is no other way, no? We always have to convert from the analog to the digital, from the digital to the analog. We are not in that state where that we have a direct plug-in here, right? Maybe it will come one day. And then, yes, we don't need to go back to the analog world. So, but so far, anyway, we are in this analog world. We're stuck in this analog world, right? Yeah, I hope this is an answer for you. I don't know. So, any other? Yeah. You get the microphone, no?
Hello. I think it's not this topic, but I'm just curious. What is your musical influence?
Oh,
just
yes.
Simple question.
Good question. What is my musical influence? Okay. I started as a street musician in the 70s, you know. I played guitar, and I started to perform on the streets together with a friend of mine, a flutist, and we were singing like songs from Bob Dylan and, you know, this kind of stuff, just what was at this time. And then, of course, the whole 70s rock music, and yes, King Crimson, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, whatever, you know, I don't know, the whole, the whole Rolling Stones, whatever, you know. Beatles were a little bit too boring for me, but yes. So, when you think about, I remember one record from Pink Floyd, the Amagama, was super experimental. Oh, no? Super experimental electronic music. And then I started to have a band. I was a singer. Yes, something in between ska and soft jazz and stuff like that. So, so I had my experience with that, but then I was thinking, okay, what it means to be as a singer on the stage, you know. There is always a special, there's a lot of it coming with it, right? When you are a female singer on stage. So I didn't want to have that anymore. I had to break that. So this was the first thing, I broke that completely, and I started to do only super experimental voice stuff. And then I met people doing already, we are in the 80s, somewhere in the 80s. when they did electronic music already, working with computers and working. So I started to work with them, right, as an experimental singer. And then these guys always, and I started to get ideas how things should sound, right? And then the guys always would tell me, we do it for you, we do it for you, we make this for you and this and that, and blah, blah, blah. I said, stop, I do it myself. And that's that's how I started to do electronic music. And then I started to study this, there was a course called Electroacoustic and Experimental Music in Vienna. And because I didn't have an academic education in music, this course was free to enter. It was very nice. I just had to go there. I did already some stuff on myself. I had to show them what I did. And so I started from 87 to 89 to study electroacoustic music, and then of course I got all this history. I started today with musique concrète and all these different, it was super new for me, so it's all about adapting, no? Some sounds would be super strange, or let's say contemporary music would be super strange for a lot of people. But it's just a question of how often you listen to it. In the beginning, it may sound like, I don't know, something. But time by time, you start to recognize a specific structure. Like when I come here and I would hear gamelan the first time, it would be super strange for me, right? But when I listen to it several times, I start to hear, this is this structure and this is that structure. And that's actually what we, how we develop, or how we can then find different, or understand and also enjoy different types of music. Yeah?
We have still, I think it's around 5 minutes before we are closing. Okay, Iqbal, please.
Hello, Iqbal. So nice to see you.
Okay, first of all, I'm happy to see you again. And then I have a question, and also I want to share something like my experience about the informal masterclass with you in Vienna, because I think it was a really good experience for me, and I still remember your words. Like you said to me, like it become my formula of working. Like so, yeah, I still remember that. And so for all of you guys, you should listening this amazing lady. Yes, I also remember you said to me like whatever your work is, how it's conceptual or like a narration or something or whatever, you should think about the final aesthetic result. So if your work is content with a sound or something, you need to think about the final aesthetic result of the sound. So it's always stuck in my mind. So I always use that. Yeah, because before I met you, I working a lot with sometimes it's lost because it's just put a sound element in of my work, and then it's just lost. Just sound is just there. But because of that work, because I work with a lot of topics, so if there is sound element, so I have opinion or perspective, for me is there is two things, like a good sound or interesting sound. So I work with interesting sound, but after your thought or your slap my face like that, so I want to like really how presenting the interesting sound in the good or a best way. So I need to work with a lot of people who like expertise. So I cannot work by myself. So it's become of my formula of working like a corporation work. Like for instance, if I need really someone expertise to do in my work, like I don't mind to ask someone to join with my work and put his name on my work. Is like a collective work. Like for instance, for Mas Gatot, he's really expert with. So I asked him, or like Tony Mariana, I asked him to join. So that's because of you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And then another question is, I want to know how is your formula of working. So if you, for instance, if you interest with something like a cave, an archaeologist, and whatever, how you start of working, like interesting with something, and then what is your step to be step by step to be the final piece or final work? Thank you.
Yeah. I give a lot of people a hard time. I think. No, it's really when I was here in 2019, and I was a guest in Bachitian, and Effie brought me to this cave. I don't know why, there was just something so strong to me that I had the feeling I need to do something in that cave, right? Because it's such a special place and it has such an interesting energy. And so, yes, then of course it's a long, long way to make something happen, right? Why should I come from Austria to Indonesia to do a piece in a cave? Is stupid, yes? I mean, somehow really, but when you have the feeling really that something attracts you very deep and you see a possibility, not all the time it gives you a possibility, but when there is a possibility, I think the most important thing is to keep on going, So of course, then there was COVID, then I connected again to Nilu. And then it was a long, 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 long process with a lot of difficulties, and we still have a lot of difficulties. But then you just try to get over it, right? And to stay on it. No matter what kind of difficulties will appear, to find a solution. It's a lot of different things, no? It's not only artistic things, it's to find the money, it's to find the collaborators. It's so much work for Nilo and the whole team to make it possible, right? So what you need is really to have this energy that this sprinkler, jumps over to the other people. That they also get this feeling, yes.
You need to give them the virus.
We have to do it, right? Even if it's super difficult, no?
I was saying like the virus.
Yeah, somehow. Yeah, but it's. I think it's has very much to do with energy. And now, and this kind of energy is also going over lines and over emails and over doesn't matter what kind of medium. This is the super interesting thing, no? Even if we are so far away, it's possible to transmit a certain kind of energy. So in the end, you always need, as you said, a lot of people. No, you cannot do things alone. So you have to collaborate in one or, with a lot of people, and I think it's important to have this energy, no? And every performance, of course, is about energy. You know that, Ikma, no? Yeah.
Next time for my next work, I will ask you.
Yeah.
I just ask, have we seen this? How can we see this? How can we...
You can come to Pachitan on the 7th. It's on the 7th of December.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that an official invitation?
Sorry?
I can come?
Yeah, sure.
People can come?
People can come, yes. Sure, people can come. So I will create a kind of installation, and then there will be a performance, I think, with Sandikala Ensemble, and then there will be the final performance. So, yeah, it's a whole day program, and I think also the local community is doing some kind of, yeah. So, 7th of December, I see you in Pachitan, yes?
Okay, we have still a lot of questions, but don't worry, after this we can touch Elisabeth for informally. So that's because the time is running out, so that's we should stop, and then probably after this we can chit chat informally to her. Yeah, and after that probably mind you to take a picture as a monument our life. Yeah, again, big applause for Elisabeth Shimana. Okay, please, position will be for photographer or something, or I don't know. Oh yeah, okay, so that's, yeah, I don't know. Please give a beautiful direction for us. For picture, for picture, I don't know. Mangga, mangga.